Shamir, Homo Anxietatem album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Shamir, Las Vegas-based singer, songwriter who many years ago, for me at least, popped up overnight with this debut album, Ratchet, which I love the hell out of this thing. It was an incredibly fun, bubbly blend of electro-pop and synth-pop and new disco and dance and so much more. The singles on this thing, I mean, call it off. I mean, God, so good. I also had the real pleasure of seeing Shamir at a festival shortly after this album release. He was one of, if not the last acts on the schedule for the day, and he brought the damn house down with an awesome performance. And I was super excited to see what he would do next. However, ever since, it's certainly been a little bit of a wild ride. I know that Shamir, for some time after Ratchet, decided that maybe music wasn't for him, almost gave up on music altogether before ultimately releasing music by himself for quite some time. And I've just always had such mixed feelings on it, and I hate to be that guy, but I certainly have. I mean, there was the Hope album that he put out. That was his first real solo, I'm gonna do what I want album, which I did enjoy just how raw and passionate it was, but stylistically this thing was all over the place. And I had a lot of the same feelings on Revelations as well. But I will say this, I mean, ever since, I feel like with each passing release, Shamir has gotten a little bit back on track, like the Resolution album. I at least, found a couple of tracks on there that I thought were pretty cool. It remained just as heartfelt and raw, but the production was better, and I felt like Shamir just, had a little bit more of a clear sight on what he wanted to do. There were also just, so many just short-winded projects like Be the Ye, Here Comes the Haw, which were like 10 tracks, 25 minutes, and none of it really stood out. But then I heard the noisy underbelly of Cataclysm, and I actually thought there were some really raw moments on that album that showed Shamir going in an interesting direction. And his self-titled record, I thought it was the best thing he'd done since Ratchet. Now, the last time we heard from him was last year. Yes, the Heterosexuality album. I thought that this was a very middle-of-the-road album. It certainly sounded good, production-wise, performance-wise. Shamir hasn't sounded this good in years. However, I still was not completely sold on the songwriting. It was still choppy in parts. I just want to be back to a place where I just can listen to a Shamir album from start to finish and feel like he knows what he's doing. Now, leading up to this album, I had very high hopes. I thought all the singles were fantastic. I thought they sounded great. They had this throwback 90s alternative rock sound, and they were just super, super catchy. And I will say this album's not perfect, but at least for me, I feel like Shamir has taken another step in the right direction. This album starts off with Oversized Sweater, and it's an awesome single. I love this thing since it dropped. I love the glistening production. I love the strummed riff. I love the throwback 90s big alternative rock sound, and Shamir sounds passionate as all hell. I think that's actually probably one of the biggest selling points of this album, with just, I don't know, how comfortable Shamir sounds. I mean, I'm all for passion projects, and I'm glad that he's stuck with music over the years. Like I said, I feel like he does keep growing, but his level of comfort on this album is really something to behold. It's beautifully performed lyrically, it's gorgeous, it's a great single. Wandering Through, on the other hand, is a scuzzy, sort of noisy, almost lo-fi track. He's done tracks like this in the past plenty of times, but I don't think none of them have come off this good. It's got a nice crunchy riff to it. Shamir's performance is super, super soulful and very sleek. It's got some spiciness to it as well. But more than anything, it's focused, and Shamir gives us his best. This performance is super passionate. It's one of the more subdued tracks here, but it's got some bite to it. I'm impressed. I've really loved Our Song since it dropped as a single as well. It's upbeat, it's flashy, it's got that great driving riff. Lyrically, it's just beautifully wrote, and it's just got this great positive energy to it. And yeah, once again, it does have a healthy dose of nostalgia. This sounds like a great mid-90s pop rock tune. And Appetizer, once again, takes another stab at this scuzzy lo-fi sound. He's been here, but once again, this is a lot better. It's a short blast of noise and energy. It barely lasts 2 minutes. It's got a huge catchy hook to it, and once again, the dedication to this sound, it's commendable. Like I said though, it still definitely has some choppy moments on this album. Shamir's getting real close to putting out something spectacular. Like Calloused, for example. This is a super bland, watered down ballad, like shockingly so. It has this sense of mysticism to it that's actually really, really cool, but the rest of this track just sounds like where Shamir's been lost for the last few years, contrary to where he's going. Without You is by far the longest track here. It's almost 6 minutes. But I actually think it's the worst track here. I don't mind the slow burning, sort of plodding along pace. As long as, you do it well, that's fine by me. But sadly, it doesn't progress. And in a sea of tracks where Shamir has sounded so comfortable and so passionate and so charismatic, this just kind of plods along. And sadly, this album does not end off on a good note either. Take, for example, Words. I mean, these ballads, I'm not going to say Shamir's heart isn't in the right place. It certainly is. But things just don't come together here. I do think the bluesy and broken down instrumental is really unique and cool. But Shamir sounds really out of place and doesn't sound nearly as confident as he has on other tracks. The sentiment is here, but the complete package this is not. And then we have The Devil Said the Blues Is All I'll Know. Yeah, Shamir is legitimately ending this album with like a rusty, dusty, down-hole blues ballad. And it's certainly done with passion. I will give it that. Shamir did his homework. But there are some awkward moments. This just seems like way too much of a stretch, especially with just how confident this entire project was feeling for a while. But I digress. Outside of that, Shamir is growing still and really putting out some great material. Some of his best in a really long time. Crime, for example. Track's great. This is a sort of gritty synth-pop track where Shamir just lets his vocals fly and they're pretty awesome. It's got a great energy to it, and halfway through this track, it gets genuinely heavy. The pounding drums and Shamir's really intense performance on this track, it's a shot out of left field, but clearly he can handle it. And I've loved The Beginning since it dropped as a single as well. It's got a breezy, summery atmosphere that I just love getting cozy up to. The strummed riff is really breezy. Shamir's performance is just full of love and passion. This is a really sweet sentiment of a tune. And Obsession once again shows Shamir taking a stab at a synth-pop track, another very heavy one, surprisingly. I love the upbeat riff that we get here, the intensity of this track, but once again, it's Shamir that does steal the show. And I love the way this track just builds up to this massive chorus. You can argue this track is a little straightforward, or some of the other tracks on this album, but man, is it catchy and enjoyable as hell. This is not a bad album. This is far from a bad album. As a matter of fact, as far as a Shamir album goes, this is probably one of the more memorable things that he's done in the last couple of years. I mean, the guy is just getting more and more confident with each release and sounding more comfortable with his sound with each passing moment. I really do love that. I wish that, some of these kinks were ironed out. Some of those late album tracks, the bluesy ones, really missed the mark. He's getting so close. But man, I'm still thinking that, he's really growing a lot, putting out some incredibly catchy tunes, and the passion on this album is seriously real. I'm feeling a decent 7 on this project, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.